Hey, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, those of you in Europe, and Merry Christmas to those of you watching in Australia. Arbor Day in New Zealand. I don't know how it works down there. Everything's upside down. I want to know how you guys stay on the planet. I don't get it. Yesterday we were watching Diaper Don do his little speechify there. And I cut out. I left. That's what you pay for. I went and played some netsing, tennis for you Americans, and I had a wonderful time and got some good exercise, so it was well worth it. Some of you stuck around and watched to the end, and I appreciate a couple of you warned me that there was music at the end or something, so I think I've edited that out. I haven't watched it yet, but that live stream is gone off my page, but then YouTube allows you to post it as a regular video. So I don't even know how that affects the metrics or whatever, but it doesn't matter. No, I didn't get a copyright strike. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you. A couple of you warned me about it. I figured that would be the case, too. So as soon as I got home, I don't know if they played the YMCA or that. I didn't even listen. I didn't care. As soon as I got home, I edited it so that when Trump stopped talking, when he walked away from that podium, that was that. So we'll see what happens. And then somebody was on after Trump talking, and I was like, what is happening? Okay, so this is what I want to do. I told Asen I would put together a Lost in Trumpslation. For those of you who don't know what Lost in Trumpslation is, that's where we take Trump and all the mistakes he makes in his speech. And one of the reasons we do this is because of the way the right wing treats Joe Biden. Every time he stutters or makes a mistake, after which he usually corrects himself immediately, they go nuts. So we're just going to be watching the speech again, and if you're welcome to join in, or if you guys see something that you think is funny and might go well in a Lost in Trumpslation, usually it's under 2 minutes total. I put it together, just the gaffes, or I was thinking today because I noticed last night, and other people noticed in the chat room as well. Good morning, Tracy. Good morning, Marcy. Good morning, Stephanie. I noticed in the chat room, people were pointing out that he was saying, never seen anything like it before. My voice is sore this morning, and I don't know why. Anyway, so we'll do a little bit of this. I don't know if we'll get through the whole speech right now. Maybe cut it in later. I don't know. He does say shit at some point as well, so we'll capture that. So if you guys see something that I don't capture, and this will be repetitive, this is editing. I'm a devious liberal. I've been accused of editing Matt Gaetz' speech. I didn't edit Matt Gaetz' speech. We are going to edit now. I'm going to be capturing select moments, and then I'll be editing it later, but I will be editing. That's what editing is when you... Anyway, this is former blogger Donald J. Trump. Good morning.
Michael, thank you very much, and congratulations on your re-election today as chairman of the North Carolina Republican Party. We love this state. You've done a great job, Michael, and we thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. I love you, too. I love you, too. It's great to be back in Greenville with so many proud North Carolina patriots who love our country, support our military, respect our police, honor our flag, and always put America first. We don't put America second. As we gather tonight, our country is being destroyed before our very own eyes. Crime is exploding. Police departments are being ripped apart and defunded. Can you believe that? Is that good politics, defund our police? Number one, it's bad for our country, but think of it, defund our police. I've long said they're vicious, they're violent.
Hold on.
In many cases for our country. Police departments are being ripped apart and defunded. Can you believe that? Is that good politics, defund our police? Number one, it's bad for our country, but think of it, defund our police. I've long said they're vicious, they're violent, they, in many cases, hate our country, and they have...
Their Polly is a cracker. That's what she wants. That's what I've heard.
Bad policy. No. The bad news from our standpoint, they stick together. They don't have some of the people like we have
Really? You want to talk to Joe Manchin about that?
Where they go on their own and they do what they have to. They stick together. And that's the one thing they have. They stick together. But their policy is so bad.
They also have the House, the Senate, and the White House.
And we're going to have a tremendous 2022, just like we did, frankly, 2020. Think of it. More votes than any sitting president in the history of the United States, by far. We had a great election. Bad things happened, but we had a great election. But you look at our border is in the history, tremendous 2022, just like we did, frankly, 2020. Think of it. More votes than any sitting president in the history of the United States, by far. We had a great election. Bad things happened, but we had a great election. But you look at our border is wide open. Illegal immigration is skyrocketing at a level that we've never seen before. And this is over a period of a few months.
Never seen before.
Drugs are border in the history of the United States, by far. We had a great election. Bad things happened, but we had a great election. But you look at our border is wide open. Illegal immigration is skyrocketing at a level that we've never seen before. And this is over a period of a few months. Drugs are pouring in. Gas prices are soaring. Our industries are being pillaged by foreign cyber attacks. That's a lack of respect for our country and for our leaders. And speaking of our leaders, they're bowing down to China. America is being demeaned and humiliated on the world stage. Our freedom is being overtaken by left-wing cancel culture. And the Biden administration is pushing toxic, critical race theory and illegal discrimination into our children's schools. Now, you tell me, we take this? Joe Biden and the Socialist Democrats are the most radical left-wing administration in history. Even Bernie Sanders can't believe it. He said, I can't believe this happened. This is worse than I ever was. And I don't know if they even know what the hell they're signing. Somebody's drawing these documents and putting it in. It's getting signed. It's a disgrace what's happening to our country. The survival of America depends upon our ability to elect Republicans at every level. Starting with the midterms next year, we have to get it done. We have to get it done. We have no choice, actually. We have to get it done. Together, we're going to defend our freedoms. You just take a look. Survival of America depends upon our ability to elect Republicans at every level. Starting with the midterms next year, we have to get it done. We have to get it done. We have no choice, actually. We have to get it done. Together, we're going to defend our freedoms. You just take a look at what's happening. We have to defend our borders. We have to do all of these things. And the cancel culture, the defunding culture, the defending culture, and they defend the wrong things. We're not going to let it go any longer. We're going to stand up for our values. We have to stand up for our values, and we're going to take back our country, and we're going to take it back at a level that is very, very good for our country, and it's good for our citizens, because we can't allow bad things to happen to our country, and bad things are happening to us, perhaps like never before. You'll be seeing what goes on, and perhaps we can't allow bad is very, very good for our country, and it's good for our citizens, because we can't allow bad things to happen to our country, and bad things are happening to us, perhaps like never before. You'll be seeing what goes on, and perhaps like never before. With us this evening are many, and bad things are happening to us, perhaps like never before. You'll be seeing what goes on, and perhaps like never before. With us this evening are many outstanding North Carolina Republican leaders who are fighting right by.
So then he goes to the introductions.
Thank you. Ted Budd. Many months now. 2022 is going to be a banner year for North Carolina Republicans. You know, they said this state was, if you look back 10 years ago, Michael, they said this state was finished. It was not going to be a Republican state at all, and they had elected a governor, and it really looked bad. And then these guys, some of them that I just announced, but others also, we all got together and You've never been in a stronger position, and now you're going to have another senator. We just elected a wonderful friend of ours, and Tom is going to be great. I think Tom, he got off to a little rocky start with Protect Bob Mueller, but you know what? He flipped in the other direction totally, and he's been terrific, and he had a great race. He ran a great race. He really did, and he had my total support. And he called me just a little while ago to tell me, I think remember, they stick together on an impeachment takeover. It's really great. To you, congratulations. I think we're going to gain 2 or even 3 U.S. House seats. We're going to take over. If you look over the House, to get rid of Nancy Pelosi. Remember, they stick together on an impeachment hoax. Not one Democrat, not one voted against. Well, actually, we had one that came over to our side, who was a terrific person, actually. But you take a look, and they didn't want to do that. But they just do it a little bit differently. They play very tough, very dirty, and we just can't let it happen. We're going to win North Carolina's all-important U.S. Senate race. And we're going to lay the groundwork for making sure that Republicans once again carry the great state of North Carolina in a number, a year that I look very much forward to, 2024. We're going to do numbers like you've never seen before. So many things are happening right much forward to, 2024. We're going to do North Carolina in a year that I look very much forward to, 2024. We're going to do numbers like you've never seen before. So many things are happening right now, but we're going to do things like you've never, ever seen before.
Oh, my God.
In a year that I look for happening right now, but we're going to do things like you've never, ever seen before. I stand before you today confident that the people of North Carolina will decisively reject Joe Biden and the radical Democrats, the war on the American worker, the American family, and the American nation. And I have to tell you that I have a very special person. You know, she's been, I love my family. I love my family. And I happen to love this particular young man that she's married to. He's a very tall person, by the way, but not as tall as Barron. And,
it's just weird.
And I have to tell you that I have a very special person. You know, she's been, I love my family. I love my family. And I happen to love this particular young man that she's married to. He's a very tall person, by the way, but not as tall as Barron. Barron is 6'7". You believe it? And he's 15. And Eric is short. He's only 6'6". But we love our Eric, and we love them all. They're all great.
Eric is 6'5".
And he is married to a very
Marcy, the shit part happens the entire time.
Special woman, Laura, and I'd like to have her, you know, she was born in this particular state. She loves this particular state. And maybe I'd like to ask Laura Trump to come up and say,
and come back now.
And there's something very refreshing about that. I don't hear that from everyone. Sadly, I hear a lot of the opposite, actually. But that's why you're such a special part of the family, because you look at the numbers and you look at the polls and the love that the state has for you. It's incredible. So thank you. And I've been putting a little pressure. I said, make your decision, please, because we have to pick somebody. And what I don't want is I don't want a lot of people joining a race that are big Trump supporters, and then I have to go with somebody, because there's somebody in this room that I think is very special. Somebody that I've worked with, always been with me, always been with Mark and Deb and all of us. He's a man that hasn't been pushing me at all, unlike some of the others that are running that won't win. They won't win. You know, we have another race after this one. This man's a great politician, but more importantly, he's somebody that loves the state of North Carolina. He loves the country. And I'm going to do it now because, again, I don't want a lot of people running and then they're going to be disappointed. And in many cases, they're friends of mine. You know, they're great people. They're thinking about running. They want to run. And they wanted to wait, frankly, till Laura made her decision because she would have been tough. She would have been tough. And she's very outstanding. But I think she did the right thing for her and for her family. But this gentleman is going to be your next senator. He's going to be somebody that you're going to be so proud of. He will fight like hell. Would you agree with that, Mark? Well, he will fight like nobody fights. And a lot of you don't know him that well, but you're going to know him probably within about 2 minutes. Ted Budd, please come up. Please come up.
Mary
Did not know about this on... Well, thank you very much, Ted. You know, honestly, he did not know about this until about 15 minutes before I walked to the podium.
There's still an hour and 34 minutes of this?
He was very taken by it. And I have read this on numerous occasions, so I'm not saying it myself. The wonderful, that's a lot of media. That's good. Wow. It's hard for them to cancel when you get wonderful. He was very taken by it. And I have read this on numerous occasions, so I'm not saying it myself. The wonderful, that's a lot of media. That's good. Wow. It's hard for them to cancel when you get great ratings, isn't it? You know, it's They may edit that out. They don't want to have that. They don't like that. They may have to edit that out, Ted, but that's okay. They don't like those endorsements. But we've been very, very successful, literally hundreds to 1, hundreds to 2 in terms of the endorsements and the power of the endorsement, because people respect that I do want to make America great again. We were doing that. We were doing that at a level that nobody's ever seen and putting America first ahead of the... They don't like those endorsements. But we've been very, very successful, literally hundreds to 1, hundreds to 2 in terms of the endorsements and the power of the endorsement, because people respect that I do want to make America great again. We were doing that. We were doing that at a level that nobody's ever seen and putting America first ahead of China and ahead of all of these countries. And people know that that's where we were. And before the pandemic came into our shores, we were doing numbers. In history, there's never been anything like it.
Oh my God. Every time I stop, he does it again.
And before the pandemic came into our shores, we were doing numbers. In history, there's never been anything like it. Unemployment for everybody, for every group, everybody was the best it's ever been. We're up to 160 million people. No, we were never even close to a number like that. And then we had this horrible thing come in from China. And we got that one right, too, by the way. Do you notice? You see what's going on over the last... It's called the lab. That was an easy one. Wuhan. But you had this horrible problem come in, and like every other country, we went down, and they were saying how well India was. Look how well India's doing. Well, India's not doing too well now, and we've done an incredible job, and most importantly with the vaccine coming up with it, but we've done an incredible job, and so many things have happened, and we built the economy not once, we built it twice. Think of it, because we built it, we had the highest stock market ever, the best job numbers, and then we had to regroup, we had to do a lot of things. We became the ventilator factory of the world. We were making them for everybody, and we had our cupboards were bare. The federal cupboards were bare, and the state cupboards were bare. And we've done a tremendous job. We never got the kind of credit that we deserve for that. One thing we do get the credit for from everybody, even the other side, although they try and disparage it as much as possible, was the vaccine, coming up with the vaccine. But we did something else that people don't talk about. It. I made a bet, and I shouldn't call it a bet because maybe you say speculation as opposed, but it was somewhat of a bet. We bought billions and billions of dollars worth of vaccine and all forms of getting that vaccine into your body, the needles, the bottles, the whole thing. We bought millions and billions, actually, of dollars worth of the vaccine, and we saved a period of a year, maybe more. You wouldn't have the vaccine right now. This room would be empty because they would ask me to be here, and I would say, no, thank you. And you would say the same thing. This would be an empty room right now, and your state would be in a lot of trouble, and the country would be in a lot of trouble. because you wouldn't have the vaccine until probably October. It might have even been later than that. And one of the things I'm most proud about is we did the vaccine, developed the vaccine, and I pushed the FDA. They have never been pushed, would you say, Mark Meadows? They have never been pushed like that. He was there at a lot of those meetings. Those were not nice meetings. They do not like me too much, that I can tell you. And frankly, the drug companies don't like me too much. Meadows, and one of the things I'm most proud about is we did the vaccine, developed the vaccine, and I pushed the FDA. They have never been pushed, would you say, Mark Meadows? They have never been pushed like that. He was there at a lot of those meetings. Those were not nice meetings. They do not like me too much, that I can tell you. And frankly, the drug companies don't like me too much either, because I did a thing called favored nations, where we have to pay whatever the lowest is in the world. That's what we have to pay. Nobody can believe I instituted that. If they leave it alone, you'll soon have the lowest drug prices that we've ever had by. But that doesn't mean that they like me. They spend millions of dollars against me, and that's okay. They have to do what they have to do. But we did things that nobody has ever done. I'm very proud of the biggest bet. This was maybe the greatest bet ever made in the history of the world, because we saved a year. We bought billions of dollars of this vaccine before we even knew it worked. And because of that, we've all, most of you, I guess all of you, just about, in one form or another, you've had your shots or jabs, as they like to call it. I actually like the other word better. But we've saved a lot of lives. We've saved all over the world. We've saved millions and millions of lives, or jabs, as they like to call it. Because of that, we've all, most of you, I guess all of you, just about, in one form or another, you've had your shots or jabs, as they like to call it. I actually like the other word better. But we've saved a lot of lives. We've saved all over the world. We've saved millions and millions of lives, and I'm very proud of it. And nobody can ever take it away from us, because that's something that's very, very special. And the people in this room are very, very special. The Biden administration, the Biden administration seems to be putting America last.
Like 4 people clap. We're very special. Like the people who tried to overturn the election.
You look at these negotiations where so many bad things have happened. 48,000 jobs were lost by President Biden's day one rejection of the Keystone XL pipeline. Why? For what reason did they do that? And if you like the environment, the pipeline is much better than railroad tracks, and it's much better than trucking. It's great. And they ended it on just about day one. 48,000 jobs, not 8,000. They said 8,000. It's 48.
I gotta make some pasta. I just gotta heat some up because I got a tennis match at like 1:30 or something. So I'm supposed to eat now, according to the notification thing, to get some carbs in me. So I'm gonna leave you guys with Ted Cruz for just a moment while I go heat that up. And it's icky. I did watch this a little bit earlier. So here's Ted Cruz about how Dr. Fauci is trying to kill you. Oh, here, we'll start with this. Remember, the question would be, stop it. The question would be, hey, President Trump, why didn't you do something about China at the time? Now, in February of last year, Joe Biden was saying we need to force China to open up so that we can investigate. And what did Trump say? I thought they knew what they were doing. Here's this, and I'll be back.
Biological weapon? And why is America funding dangerous research in communist China? I asked then President Trump about it back in May of 2020.
So a terrible thing happened, and you can look at it as a source. It took place at a certain point, and it could have been put out, and it should have been put out. And we asked to go over, and they said no. They didn't want our help. And I figured that was okay, because they must know what they're doing. So it was either stupidity, incompetence, or it was deliberate, one or the other.
Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo on this morning about his probe of the origins of COVID-19 and why Joe Biden's foreign policy seems to be helping China, Iran, and Russia instead of America. Plus, President Biden's mega spending plans, the $6 trillion budget nobody seems to be talking about. House Budget Committee ranking member Jason Smith on how Biden is planning to spend your tax dollars. Then from the Russia hoax to Hunter Biden's laptop and his business deal with foreigners, to the origins of COVID-19 and treating it with hydroxychloroquine. Some media and social media have been censoring, colluding, and lying to the American people. Molly Hemingway on the next falsity likely to blow up in the media's faces. All that plus two of my guests this morning just back from Israel with exclusive news from the ground. All that right here, right now on Sunday Morning Futures. And first this morning, the Fauci Facebook censorship. We now know that Dr. Anthony Fauci misled or flat out lied under oath to Senator Rand Paul during a Senate committee hearing. But today we are learning more about his potential collusion with the social media giant Facebook to keep that lie going and censor very serious information about the origins of COVID-19. First, here's the Fauci flip-flop over a 2-week period. Watch.
Dr. Barrett does not do gain-of-function research, and if it is, it's according to the guidelines, and it is being conducted in North Carolina. And if you look at the grant and you look at the progress reports, it is not gain-of-function, despite the fact that people tweet that.
It would have been almost a dereliction of our duty if we didn't study this. And the only way you can study these things is you've got to go where the action is. So we had a modest collaboration with very respectable Chinese scientists who are world experts on coronavirus. And we did that through a sub-grant from a larger grant to EcoHealth.
Ah. Okay, joining me right now to discuss this is Senator Ted Cruz. He sits on the Senate Judiciary and Foreign Relations Committees. Senator, good morning to you. It is wonderful to see you this morning. I want to get right into the Facebook connection. But first, Senator, tell us, did Fauci commit perjury just there?
It sure looks like it. He looked at Rand Paul's eyes and told a flat-out falsehood. And unfortunately, this has been a pattern with Dr. Fauci, that what he says on Monday somehow isn't the same as what he says on Tuesday. But don't worry, what he says on Wednesday is almost certain to be different. And I got to say, this email dump that came out makes clear that this is not just being sloppy. It is systematic, and it is systematically an effort to mislead the American people. And as you noted, he wasn't doing it alone, but he was doing it with much of the U.S. government behind him, and with Facebook and big tech operating as an extension of the U.S. government in order to silence any views that disagreed, not with the science, because he wasn't looking for the science, he was suppressing the science, but rather trying to silence anything that disagreed with the political narrative that was convenient that he was pushing at that moment.
Are you going to be able to do anything as a sitting senator on these so important committees? I mean, look, Senator, this keeps happening. First, it was the Russia hoax that the media said was not true, and they banned posts about it. Then it was a fake impeachment trial. Then it was the COVID treatment, hydroxychloroquine. We couldn't talk about that. Then it was the origins of COVID, that they have egg on their face. We're also not allowed to talk about election 2020. Look at this timeline about the Facebook Fauci censorship. On March 15th, Zuckerberg emails Fauci suggesting that they partner on COVID-19 Information Hub. And then on April 16th, 2020, Facebook posts steps that it is taking. It changes its policy, quote, to combat COVID-19 related misinformation, it claims. February 8th, 2021, Facebook announces it will be removing more false claims about COVID-19 and vaccines. May 25th, Fauci admits to modest collaboration, as we just heard. And then on May 26th, suddenly Facebook has to change its policy again, saying it will no longer remove the claim that COVID-19 is man-made. I mean, what's going on here? Will these companies ever be held to account for this corporate dominance and misleading of information to the American people?
Well, they certainly should be. Unfortunately, I don't expect the Biden administration will do anything to hold them to account. But these latest breakthroughs have real consequence, because it now is clear that Facebook was operating at the direction of and in the direct benefit of the federal government, and operating as the government censor, utilizing their monopoly position to censor on behalf of the government. Maria, that's a very dangerous admission that is now out there for Facebook, because it means anybody in the country or anybody in the world whose statements, whose speech was censored by Facebook, if you went out and posted the facts that led a year ago to the very strong likelihood that the COVID virus escaped from a Chinese government lab in Wuhan, China, if you posted that a year ago and they took it down, I think there's a very good argument you have a cause of action against Facebook. And Facebook would ordinarily say, we're a private company, we're not liable. Well, you know what? When they act at the behest of the government, when they contact Fauci, when they say, should we censor this? And Fauci says yes, and they censor it for the federal government. And then magically, when the government changes his mind and said, oh, all those facts that were there a year ago, now you're allowed to talk about it. They stop censoring it with a flip of a switch. That lays a very strong argument that Facebook is operating as a state agency, and that opens very significant legal liability.
Yeah, we'll see. I want to put the Facebook statement on the screen so that our audience understands what they're saying about this in light of ongoing investigations into the origin of COVID-19. And in consultation with public health experts, we will no longer remove the claim that COVID-19 is man-made or manufactured from our apps. I mean, the question is, how many lives were lost as a result of this censorship? How many people's lives were impacted as a result of this ongoing misinformation coming from these so-called arbiters of truth? And by the way, Senator, do we know if Mark Zuckerberg has national security clearance? Why are his emails redacted? Okay, look at this emails. It's redacted. Why are we redacting emails with a CEO of a public company? It says, this is the email. This offer was raised again in a second email from Fauci's communications director on March 16th. She writes, the sooner we get that offer up.
Think of it, he rejected our pipeline, but he approved the Russian pipeline, which I had completely stopped going into Germany and all parts of Europe. So I stopped Russia. And I have a very good relationship with President Putin, but there's never been anybody as tough on Russia than I was. And you look at these horrible cyber attacks, you look at all of the things that are happening. We're in a different world than we were in just a few months ago. Yet there's no better example of Biden's failed agenda than the catastrophic, and you look at it, is what's going on at the southern border ago than I was. And you look at these horrible cyber attacks, you look at all of the things that are happening. We're in a different world than we were in just a few months ago. Yet there's no better example of Biden's failed agenda than the catastrophic, and you look at it, is what's going on at the southern border. I mean, is there anything that you've ever seen like what's going on the southern border? And people are coming in from South America, Latin America, but they're coming in from the Middle East. They're coming in from all over. When I left...
An annoying notification sound? Yeah, I didn't hear that either.
Office, we gave the new administration the most secure border in U.S. history. We had the most secure border in the history of our country, and that included drugs, that included human trafficking, which is a magnificently horrible and big business. Mostly trafficking in drugs, that included human trafficking, which is a magnificently horrible and big business. And that included drugs, that included human trafficking, which is a magnificently horrible and big business, mostly trafficking in women. And the numbers were down to levels that they hadn't seen in many, many years. And all they had to do is just leave it alone. Just leave it alone. If you leave it alone, it would have gotten better and better. And the fact that we built almost 500 miles of wall, in just a few months it would have been completed. It took 2.5 years of litigation to get to build the wall, and what an impact it had. But it would have been completed, totally completed, in just a couple of months, and they stopped it. Now I understand they're starting it again. That one was just too easy. But wait till they find out wait till they see what those contractors are going to do to them. Well, you know, this is going to cost us 5 times more money now because we weren't prepared. You know, it's the old story. They're the greatest negotiators in the world. They may not have gone to the...
Okay, here we go. Back to Sunday Morning Futures. I got to stir the macaroni and cheese. I'll be right back.
Greatest business schools, but they're the greatest...
No, not that.
Negotiators.
Stop it! I don't know why it's doing that. It keeps going back on me. Hold on. Let's do this. And let's do...
Up the food chain, the better. And then we switch to another email where it says, the really bigger deal that we want to share with you, I have an even bigger deal, is his offer to redacted. What's the bigger deal that Zuckerberg was offering to Dr. Fauci that the American people can't know about? Does he have a national security
Well, we should
clearance?
know about it, and they... Not that I know of, and we should know about it, and the fact that they're redacting it is ridiculous. The claimed basis for the redactions is a protection for trade secrets within a company. The real basis for the redaction is obvious. It's that whatever is there is politically embarrassing for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and so they don't want people to see it. And that's their strategy to media across the board, is cover up, cover up, cover up. You know, a year ago, in March and April of last year, I did 2 full podcasts on my podcast, Verdict with Ted Cruz, going through the evidence in March and April of last year, why the evidence strongly suggested this escaped from a lab. There are not one, but 2 laboratories studying virology in Wuhan, China. They don't just study virology. They study the virology of coronaviruses. They don't just study coronaviruses.
Exactly.
They study coronaviruses derived from bats. They don't just study them from bats, but from bats that are the closest place they occur naturally is 900 miles away. One of those 2 institutes, one of those 2 government labs is less than 400 yards away from the wet market where this outbreak first occurred.
But we negotiated historic agreements with Mexico, Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador to stop illegal immigration. And
it didn't work.
Ended asylum and asylum fraud. The fraud of what was going on at our border was unbelievable. We instituted rapid removals on the border, and that's really rapid. I call it one-day turnaround of criminals coming into our country, sending people home in record time. We have times that nobody ever heard of before. Of what was going on at our border was unbelievable. We instituted rapid removals on the border, and that's really rapid. I call it one-day turnaround of criminals coming into our country, sending people home in record time. We have times that nobody ever heard of before. We ended catch and release. That's where you catch somebody. Could be a horrible criminal. You catch somebody, a rapist, a murderer, could be a drug dealer, and we release them. It's called catch. We catch them and we release them into our country. Well, we didn't do that. We empowered ICE to do their jobs. ICE is incredible. The Border Patrol is incredible. By the way, your police force in North Carolina, I've gotten to know them very well. They are incredible. Thank you very much. A lot of them are here tonight. We cracked down on sanctuary cities, deported gang members by the thousands, and dealt a crippling blow to MS-13, that's the most vicious gang of all, and we took them out of here by the thousands and thousands brought back to where they came. And those countries didn't want them back. And a little story, I said, well, what do you mean they don't want them back? They weren't taking them back. They didn't want them back. They sent them out. They didn't want them back. And I said, that's bad. And they told me that, sir, we can't take them 13 back. We think they're wonderful people. We never had a problem and them anymore. And the next day I got a call from all 3 countries. We'd love to have MS-13 back. We think they're wonderful people.
All right. Got to go stir the mac and cheese again. I will be back. I will give you a little bit more Ted Cruz, and I apologize for this.
Now, We know that 3 different scientists at those labs got sick with what appears to be COVID, or at least symptoms very similar to COVID, right before this outbreak occurred. And of course, what happened? The Chinese government covered it up. And sadly, the deep state and the federal government covered it up as well. And Joe Biden and his minions in the press, including Facebook and big tech, did everything to cover up the facts. We should be getting to the bottom of the facts of a pandemic that has killed millions of people worldwide.
That's right. 3.5 million people. You have been going right to the source. Thank you for your incredible service to this country in terms of what you've done. You went right to the border. You exposed those incredible housing facilities, and you're just back from Israel. Let me switch gears and ask you about Israel, because you were there in the middle of the fight for Benjamin Netanyahu's public life. I want to get your take on what you...
Here we go.
We never had a problem, and now they blew that one, too. They blew that one, too. I'll never forget it. We'd love to have them back. It would be our great honor to take them back. Those runways opened up like you've never seen anything open up. After we instituted these policies, the number of illegal... We'd love to have them back. It would be our great honor to take them back. We never had a problem, and now they blew that one, too. They blew that one, too. I'll never forget it. We'd love to have them back. It would be our great honor to take them back. Those runways opened up like you've never seen anything open up. After we instituted these policies, the number of illegal aliens coming across our border declined by an astounding 91%. But under Joe Biden, illegal crossings are up nearly 1,000% compared to the same period last year. They're emptying their prisons. They're sending murderers, drug dealers, human traffickers, and others just as bad to the United States. Let the United States take care of them. Remember, it's called America Last. In April alone, over 175,000 illegal aliens were apprehended and mostly released. You know where they were released, right? They were released into our country. And we saw the largest number ever of unaccompanied minors. We've never seen anything like it. If you just watch some of the semi-fair television. And we saw the largest number ever of unaccompanied minors. We've never seen anything like it. If you just watch some of the semi-fair television. You don't have to watch fair, semi-fair. They talk about it because I think they have no choice, and I think they're going to see it more and more. You don't see it too much on the evening news yet, but you're going to see it because they're destroying our country. But it is much worse than that because there are at least 1,000 aliens who are simply getting away every single day as the radical Democrats have intentionally, ruthlessly, and systematically dismantled the sovereign borders of the United States of America. We have people just walking into our country. Nobody knows who they are, where they're from. There's no vetting. There's no anything. And some of these people are very, very bad people. Much as I said on that beautiful morning when I came down with our future First Lady at the time, right, Melania, who sends her regards. But we came down that beautiful gold escalator in Trump Tower, and I made that statement, and people...
All right, here we go again. I gotta go. Now I gotta go mix the macaroni and cheese. So here's a little bit more. Let's see who else she gets on here today. So you got a little bit more time on this with Ted, and then lots of ads, and... Come on. Hold on. I will find... Oh, there's Pompeo. Pompeo's terrible to listen to, but that's what you got, folks. And I'll be back in just a couple... Oh, Devin Nunes. Oh, this is old stuff. It's talking about...
I think it's pretty clear that there wasn't some guy in a wet market in China that ate a bat. It likely didn't come from there. There's zero evidence of that. But there's building circumstantial evidence that indeed this did come from a lab, and indeed likely there was money that flowed from the U.S. government through nonprofits that was actually supporting this type of research that was going on in China. And look, why is this important? This is about bioweapons. This is about biowarfare. This is very concerning.
That was Congressman Devin Nunes on this program last month, questioning whether the Chinese Communist Party deliberately engineered a COVID-19 bioweapon. Joining me right now is former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Good morning, Secretary. It's very good to see you this morning.
It's great to be with you.
A lot of information these last few weeks. Can you tell us what you think was going on here?
Well, Maria, the more we see, the more we know. Every sign, every piece of evidence that we've seen to date continues to stack up to suggest that this did indeed come. This Wuhan virus came from the virology lab there in Wuhan. We've seen almost no evidence that supports the zoonotic theory that it somehow leapt from a bat to another species. This wasn't the politically correct thing to say back in the spring of last year when I began to see evidence accumulating in that direction. What precisely happened, we don't know. But every one of those laboratories that the Chinese engage in, just like, frankly, every state-owned enterprise, is operated and controlled by the People's Liberation Army or their security apparatus. That's certainly true at the Wuhan Institute of Virology as well. We don't know precisely what was taking place there because the Chinese Communist Party is covering it up and won't let us know. But there are a lot of unanswered questions about what these activities were, why they were engaged with them, were they connected to their military in any way, and if, in fact, this leak came from that laboratory.
Yeah, and this is why we speak so much about investing in Chinese companies and the efforts that your administration tried to lessen that, even ban that, because it's all controlled by the Chinese military. And the Chinese military is hoping to overtake the U.S. military. That's why you did a probe into the origins of COVID-19, and you've said many times in the last couple of weeks that there were influences within the State Department that tried to play that down. I guess one question I have is, why was it that it was the Bureau of Arms Control asking the questions rather than the staffers who oversee the China portfolio?
So, Marie, there were some folks from our China team working on this as well. But we had some real expertise. We helped bring some contractors in who had some enormous expertise as well. I was personally determined to do everything I could to help in any way I could to make sure there was fewer loss of life, not only in America, but around the world, and understanding where this virus came from and the risk of another virus escaping from this lab, or worse, if this was somehow grossly negligent, recklessly negligent, or heaven forbid, intentional, we needed to know. And so we wanted our team to look at it. We had a handful of folks inside our bureaucracy who were playing the politically correct game, didn't want to rock the boat. The consensus here in Swamp Town was that this was something that we shouldn't even take a look at. It wasn't even worth questioning, whether it was the New York Times or the Washington Post. They poo-pooed any of us who talked about this lab. And there were people inside the State Department that didn't want to. They were creatures of the town, and they didn't want to rock the boat.
Well, I think it was you and your team and your administration, the first administration to truly, if you will, poke the bear, push back on the Chinese Communist Party's behavior. There were a string of indictments in 2020, everybody from a professor at Harvard to the NYPD to the embassies that you closed in Houston, San Francisco. There were questions about the embassy, Chinese embassy in New York. And yet Joe Biden has yet to bring up the origins of COVID with Xi Jinping. In fact, listen to what the president said about his relationship with Xi Jinping and China's goals just in the last week. Watch this.
I've spent more time with President Xi of China than any world leader has. For 24 hours of private meetings with him. Just interpreter. 17,000 miles traveling with him in China and here. He firmly believes that China, before the year 3035, is going to own America. Because autocracies can make quick decisions. But America is unique. Of all nations in the world, we're the only nation organized based on an idea.
So that said, China wants to acquire America within 15 years. And full stop. What your reaction to what he just said?
Well, I'm not interested in how many miles he's flown or how many hours he's spent with Xi Jinping. I'm interested in what he's doing to stop Xi Jinping and protect and secure American freedom. I've seen nothing, Maria. This to your point. We closed an embassy, a consulate in Houston. There was spying going on in our energy industry and our great research institutions in the state of Texas. We had the DOJ indict multiple figures. I hope that work is still going on. I've seen no evidence of that to date. The Chinese Communist Party presents the most significant challenge to our way of life of any adversary that we have out there today. I heard him the other day say that they were a competitor, that China was somehow a competitor. Europe is a competitor. Japan is a competitor. The Chinese Communist Party wants to take us out. They want the world to operate on a system that looks like the one that they operated, tyranny, authoritarianism. We can't let that happen. And if President Biden is going to tout miles traveled and hours spent as the hallmark of success, I promise you Xi Jinping will see that as weakness, and our children and grandchildren will live in a United States that's very, very different.
Well, it was you who pointed out that the CCP has a way of getting inside. They are behind the wall at this point. They have put people in academia, in Hollywood. And that's why you were able to indict people like the chairman of the biology department at Harvard, because he did not disclose he was being paid by the CCP. So my question for you is, who else is being paid by the CCP today that we don't know about? And I want to run this soundbite of Anthony Fauci, because he has a real hard time criticizing China in an interview on MSNBC last week. Watch this.
Would you agree, though, Dr. Fauci, it is in their interest to hide it if there was a lab leak, or worse, if they were designing something in their lab so that the world, that America didn't know that it came out of their own lab? Wouldn't they want to conceal that?
You know, Willie, I don't want to be speculating on that, because every time I say something like that, you know it as well as I, it will get completely taken out of context and go into the Twitter world like crazy.
Really? You don't want to speculate, Anthony Fauci. Who else is being paid by the CCP right now? How many spies are in the country right now, Secretary?
Well, Maria, I can't tell you exactly how many, but your point, I talked about the Chinese Communist Party being inside the gates here at home in the United States, and we worked alongside the Department of Justice and others to find each and every one of them and get them out of our country. You know, we have 360,000 students, Chinese students, that study in the United States every single year. We have a responsibility. I talked about distrust but verify. We need to do that here at home as well. I released a study that showed the Chinese Communist Party was evaluating every governor. They had rated American governors on whether they were friendly or unfriendly or were working on them. These are the kind of things that the Chinese Communist Party is engaged in. They have real influence operations here inside the United States. And when I hear someone like Dr. Fauci use talking points that could come from the Chinese Communist Party's foreign ministry, this is something that's inconsistent with making sure that we get it right here at home in the United States of America. I'll leave to others to determine motivation. We ought to get to the bottom of it. But when folks find it hard to criticize the Chinese Communist Party with all that they have done, whether it's the genocide in the West or what they did to the people of Hong Kong, when it's hard to criticize the Chinese Communist Party, it's very difficult to understand.
That's right, and you have to question it. Okay, I want to also question what's going on in Israel. You took a trip, met with Bibi Netanyahu. Give us your take on the Abraham Accords, incredible, historic.
There's my microphone. Bibi Netanyahu's out of office. Is anyone still here? I don't know why. This is, okay. Well, let's get back to Mr. Trump there.
Well, hated it. It turned out that my statement was, but we came down that beautiful gold escalator in Trump Tower, and I made that statement, and people hated it. It turned out that my statement was very minor compared to the actual facts. It was very, very minor. It's another thing we were right about. Without a border, you cannot have a nation, certainly not a great nation. We fight for other countries' borders, but we don't fight for our own border. Think of it. We fight for other countries' borders, but not for our own. That changed under my administration, but now they're going back more rapidly than anyone ever thought possible. Nobody ever thought that they could do this kind of destruction to our country so quickly. Some of those executive orders that are signed are absolutely insane. Biden has halted wall construction, suspended removals and even removals of just horrible, horrible people. Stopped enforcement, shredded wall into our country so quickly.
Biden has suspended removables.
Some of those executive orders that are signed are absolutely insane. Biden has halted wall construction, suspended removals and even removals of just horrible, horrible people. Stopped enforcement, shredded our groundbreaking, remain in Mexico. So we had that groundbreaking plan that took us a long
Groundbreaking.
Stopped in
Groundbreaking.
Biden has halted wall construction, suspended removals and even removals of just horrible, horrible people. Stopped enforcement, shredded our groundbreaking, remain in Mexico. So we had that groundbreaking plan that took us a long time to get because Mexico, like the other countries, were taking advantage of the United States. Everybody was taking advantage of us. And we have an agreement, stay in Mexico as opposed to stay in the United States. And a lot of people weren't coming when they realized they had to stay in Mexico. So the enforcement was so much better, and it was getting to a level that nobody's ever seen. And then we finally hit that level. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. They turned America much better in Mexico as opposed to stay in the United States. And a lot of people weren't coming when they realized they had to stay in Mexico. So the enforcement was so much better, and it was getting to a level that nobody's ever seen. And then we finally hit that level. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. They turned America into a sanctuary for criminal aliens, and effectively they were abolishing ICE through agency directives. What they've done to ICE and what they've done to our Border Patrol heroes is incredible. It's incredible. And these are some of the finest people you'll ever meet. I got to know so many of them, and they're among the finest people. Heroes is incredible. It's incredible. And abolishing ICE through agency directives. What they've done to ICE and what they've done to our Border Patrol heroes is incredible. It's incredible. And these are some of the finest people you'll ever meet. I got to know so many of them, and they're among the finest people you'll ever meet. It's true. They love our country. Despite the worst border crisis in history, we've had the smallest number of illegal alien removals ever recorded. 92% of illegal aliens we removed in 2020 had criminal records. You believe that? 90, over 90, and very substantially probably higher than that. I think around 92% had criminal records. And now they're all being set free and released back into your communities. They don't want to bring them back. And if they are back, they actually have a new policy that if we took them out, they're going to let them come back in. It's the most incredible thing I've ever heard. But the border is just the beginning of the Biden disasters. As you know, we handed the new administration the greatest economy in the history of the world. We passed massive tax cuts, the largest ever, larger than our great friend Ronald Reagan. Record regulation cuts, historic pro-American trade deals, and achieved American energy independence. How's your gasoline price doing? Actually, I guess you were hit worse than any state, from what I understand, on the cyber attack. It's incredible. It's a lack of respect. After the pandemic began, we launched the fastest economic recovery on record. We produced 3 vaccines and numerous therapeutics to defeat the virus. You know, they don't talk about the therapeutics, but we came up with things that are incredible and I think extremely effective. All Joe Biden had to do was sit back and do nothing, and it was taking off like a rocket ship. Nobody's ever seen it. Between the economy and all of the other things we did, all Joe Biden had to do was sit back and do nothing, and it was taking off like a rocket ship. Nobody's ever seen it. Between the economy and all of the other things we did, the border. Instead, the economy is going to hell, and inflation is going to cause a catastrophe in the near future. The New York Times, who I don't often quote, just stated, 1 million jobs a month seemed within grasp not long ago. Think of it,
Where?
1 million jobs a month just cause a catastrophe in the near future. The New York Times, who I don't often quote, just stated, 1 million jobs a month seemed within grasp not long ago. Think of it, 1 million jobs a month seemed within grasp not long ago, but now it looks like
Was that Steffi Graf?
wishful thinking. Isn't that sad?
I wouldn't mind being within Steffi Graf. What's up? I have no idea, really. I just know that Monica Seles was stabbed. I don't really know who Steffi Graf is. I just know she plays Netsing. Tennis for you Americans.
And we would have done much better than that. But that's the New York Times saying it. Monthly jobs numbers have missed expectations.
What?
Isn't that sad? And we would have done much better than that. But that's the New York Times saying it. Monthly jobs numbers have missed expectations the last 2 months in a row. And you saw what was released on Friday. They were devastating numbers, job numbers. Inflation is now at the highest level in 13 years and is going to go up very substantially. It's going to cost you a lot more. Imposing a stealth tax on hardworking Americans, and especially on middle-income Americans. Biden re-entered the job-killing Paris Climate Accord, a terrible deal that is pro-China, pro-Russia, and anti-America, and will cost America trillions of dollars over the years. This is a deal that is so one-sided against us, like practically no other deal. But they're all bad. But this one's a real beauty. But it sounds so nice, right? The Paris Environmental Accord. Gas prices have increased almost 71%.
That's not what it's called.
Since 1 year ago. Think of it. Democrats are now attempting to pass the largest tax hike in American history. And it will affect everybody. They're saying it's against the rich. It's against everybody. And a lot of the rich will take off to go to other countries. A lot of the companies that I brought back are going to leave and go back to other countries where they can not have to pay all of their profits out in taxes. They're talking about the biggest tax hike in history by far. They're also pushing a $2.25
Is what true, Ruth Ann?
$1 trillion infrastructure bill. That's not infrastructure. It's the kind of things that you don't want. 9%.
No, gas prices are not up 70%. What? I mean, 70% from when? I must have missed it because I don't even know what he was referring to.
Looks like it might be infrastructure, but mostly it's not infrastructure at all. The Democrat legislation also includes an extreme plan to abolish single-family home zoning, which would obliterate your home values, increase crime, and destroy the suburbs, all to satisfy the far-left agenda of AOC, Bernie Sanders, Rashida Tlaib, and Ilhan Omar, who's telling us how to run our country. She's had great experience. She comes from a country that's done a wonderful job running their country. Now she's telling us how to run our country. While Democrats push economic...
Yeah, she left that country as a refugee. I think she was a child at the time. But, yeah.
Policies designed to punish American workers.
Morning,
Republicans
Jennifer.
must keep on fighting.
We're just editing. I'm just grabbing clips out of this because I might edit it together later. So nothing big happening. And I don't even think we're going to get to the end of the speech again today. Because he went on, at least C-SPAN broadcast, about an hour and a half. I don't even know how long his speech was, but apparently he drones on. And I pity anyone who stayed last night and watched the whole thing.
To protect, promote, and uplift the American worker who we cherish.
Worker.
And that begins with standing up to communist China. Last year, China inflicted an estimated $16 trillion of economic damage onto the United States with a virus that I call the China virus because I want to be accurate, that claimed the lives of hundreds of thousands of our fellow citizens. And look at the world. Look at what happened to the world. It's not just us, it's the world. And had we not come up with a vaccine, you would have had a 1917 Spanish flu number. They lost, they say, up to 100 million people. You would have had to come up with a vaccine. And look at the world. Look at what happened to the world. It's not just us, it's the world. And had we not come up with a vaccine, you would have had a 1917 Spanish flu number. They lost, they say, up to 100 million people. You would have had those kind of numbers. You would have had numbers that were just unthinkable. But because of what we've done as a nation, because of the speed that we came up with a vaccine, the world will not have that. Many places in the world are getting better. Even India today announced that they're starting to heal. The media, the Democrats, and the so-called experts are now finally admitting what I first said 13 months ago. The evidence demonstrates that the virus originated in a Chinese government lab. Couldn't say it. You couldn't say it. And Dr. Fauci, who I actually got along with, he's a nice guy. He's a great promoter, you know. Not a great doctor, but he's a hell of a promoter. He likes television more than any politician in this room. And they like television. But he's been wrong on almost every issue. And he was wrong on Wuhan and the lab also, very wrong. And we ended the payments. You know, they were started in 2014. And then I can tell you, Mark Meadows came in, and I talked to him, and he saw what I saw. And I said, what the hell's going on? When did that start? Started in 2014, and we ended it. Our administration ended it. But generally speaking, I went the opposite way of Dr. Fauci, what he was saying. For instance, Fauci said, do not close our borders to China or Europe. But I did it anyway. And months later, he said I made the right decision and saved thousands and thousands of lives. He said it was the right decision, but he did not want to close that border. I said, wait a minute, there's tremendous infection over there. We can't let this happen. And we closed it, and I think we saved hundreds of thousands of lives. You remember the number was 2.2 million people in our country who were expected to die. Fauci said powerfully at the beginning, no masks. You remember that? No, masks don't work, masks don't. And then he went into masks, and then he became a radical masker. I would call it. If you have 3, if you have 4, get a pair of goggles also, ideally. And let's wear them for another 5 or 6 years. But Fauci has perhaps never been more wrong than when he denied the virus and where it came from. The time has come for America and the world to demand reparations and accountability from the Communist Party of China. We should all declare within one unified voice that China must pay. They must pay.
Standing ovation.
The United States should immediately take steps to phase in a firm 100% tariff on all goods made in China. You saw what was happening with our tariffs. In fact, you know, the Democrats were fighting the tariffs. Oh, we don't. Well,
that's just beyond ridiculous. But anyway.
He hasn't taken those tariffs off. He doesn't want to. Billions and billions of dollars, 25% tariffs on China. Billions and billions of dollars is pouring in. And frankly, if you raise them, a lot of things would happen to China. I think they'd stop building their military. I think a lot of companies would move back to the United States. And I'm not only talking about China, I'm talking about others. Because, you know, what China does is they'll sell through other countries. They're very ingenious. They're very smart. Had a great relationship with President Xi until the China virus came in. Then it was real tough. We made a tremendous deal.
Then you spent crucial months praising him for his transparency because you thought that they knew what they were doing. Now the evidence has been destroyed. I don't know that we'll ever know exactly where the virus came from. So, you know, we could discover it in an animal and be like, oh, here it is. This is how it got here. This makes sense. But the whole lab thing, I don't know if we'll ever get to the bottom of that.
For the farmers, you know, farmers are doing better than they've ever done because of us, because of me, because of what we've done with our administration. Better than they've ever done. Look at wheat prices and virtually all prices. The farmers are doing the best, and one of the reasons is China's buying tremendous amounts, and they want to keep us happy. They want to keep me happy. I don't think they want to keep Biden happy. I don't think they care too much about Biden, to be honest. But they wanted to keep me happy, and they were investing with our farmers. They were buying so much of our product, and they continue.
Wanted to keep Trump happy, but wouldn't let our researchers, the CDC, into China to investigate. So, but they wanted to keep Trump happy, which they did by praising him.
To do so. We made a great deal. But after the virus came in, I just felt differently. It meant, you know, a trade deal with China didn't mean very much. It didn't mean, to me, it was just a whole different mindset. The virus came in, but they wanted to keep me happy, and they were investing with our farmers. They were buying so much of our product, and they continue to do so. We made a great deal. But after the virus came in, I just felt differently. It meant, a trade deal with China didn't mean very much. It didn't mean, to me, it was just a whole different mindset. Does that make sense? I used to talk about the trade deal. I'd drive these guys crazy. That trade deal was great. Look at our farmers. They're starting to do great. You look at beef, you look at cattle, you look at all of the different things, corn, wheat. You look at it, what a great deal. When the virus came in, I don't even talk about the trade. This is the first time in a long time I've even mentioned the trade deal. And it's really been very beneficial, but it's so tiny compared to the devastation that's been caused. And we should reinvest 100% of all of that money that we collect from tariffs to help bring back jobs and factories from China and other places back to America and back to the great state of North Carolina where they belong. Over the years, I've built lots of hotels and lots of things, and I used to buy my furniture from North Carolina. Are you a furniture guy? Stand up. There's only one in the room, I think. Right? But I helped you a lot, right? Good, thank you. It's great to have you. And the quality was incredible. Now so much of it's made in China, right? So much. And we were stopping that. It was all stopping. And then we had to slow it down a little bit after the pandemic. But it was all stopping, and it was all starting to come back here into other places. And I will tell you, I bought a lot of furniture, a lot of things, and a lot of times you'd put furniture.
I used to take married women furniture shopping with me, and I would move on them like a bitch. I would move on them. And then sometimes I would just pop in a Tic Tac, and I'd grab them by the pussy. They wouldn't even resist. When you're a star, they let you do that.
Made in China into a hotel room, and it would break. Somebody sits down in a chair. If you don't sit down lightly, the damn thing would collapse. Then I get...
That's really more of a commentary on your own weight, sir.
Sued as usual, But nobody ever made it like you made it here and you make it here. So just stay tuned, okay? Because we were all set to bring it all back. It was all coming back. In addition, all nations should work together to present China a bill for a minimum of $10 trillion to compensate for the damage they've caused. And that's a very low number. The damage is far, far greater than that. As a first step, all countries should collectively cancel any debt they owe to China as a down payment on reparations. The nations of the world should no longer owe money to China. China has destroyed so many nations. I mean,
And the global economy would just collapse in upon itself if all the countries canceled their debt to China.
Came out better than anybody. Our economy's stronger now than any other nation. Nobody's recovered like us because of what we've done, because we laid a great economic foundation, and because of what we've done with the vaccine, and also what we've done with the distribution of the vaccine. But China should owe money.
Thank you, Biden.
To the nations of the world. They've been destroyed. These nations have been destroyed. Sadly, the current administration is very timid and frankly corrupt when you look at all of the money that they've been given as a family by China, that instead of holding China accountable, the Biden administration shut down the U.S. government's investigation into the origins of the virus shortly after taking office. What's going on? Now, Hunter, who had no experience, walked out with $1.5 billion to manage. You know how much money you make on $1.5 billion to manage? They needed Hunter's advice. They don't use the smartest people on Wall Street. They don't want their advice. I spoke to somebody on Wall Street. I won't mention his name. We'll get him in trouble. But I spoke to somebody. I said, who's one of the...
That was Blackstone. And they did talk to him. And their office denies ever telling Trump any of this.
Biggest. I said, do they do this? He said, I can't get money. And this guy's record is better than anybody. Now, that's a disgrace. We must never forget that Joe Biden and his family took millions of dollars from the Chinese Communist Party. They bought them off. They flagrantly lied about it to the American voters. If you remember, it was a big deal at the time, and then all of a sudden it was canceled. They didn't want to talk about it. The big tech And the fake news media didn't want to talk about it. You could talk up a storm. In fact, I'll guarantee you those cameras are starting to go off right now. It's true. Yeah, those red lights, well, there's one over there. What the hell network are you with? This guy's going to lose his job. The American voters and now Joe Biden are doing what they're doing is just terrible. And to the American voter and to our great country, because we are greater than China.
Bye.
There is nobody like us. Nobody has the people that we have. Nobody has the...
That is true. No other country has the people that we have.
The genius that we have. Nobody has the things or the system that...
What's FUPA? Who said FUPA?
We have when it works, but it's broken right now. It's corrupt, it's broken, whether it's elections, whether it's business, whether it's taxation, whether it's so many different things. Nobody has what our country has. The Biden administration has been one shameful and embarrassing foreign policy disaster after another. And you know the former Secretary of State, he said, Joe's never made a good foreign policy decision. Biden cravenly lifted sanctions on Iran. Oh,
Cravenly?
Iran. Oh,
Cravenly?
I would have had a deal in 1 week.
Cravenly?
1 week. If I won, I even told them, I said, you know what, let's get the election over with, we'll make a deal. It would have been a great deal. Now they're actually asking for money. Here we go again. Remember, they got 150 billion plus 1.8 billion in cash. Now they're actually asking for money. They never asked me for money. It's unbelievable. It's so sad to see. So many things. That's one. Look at what's happening with North Korea. Remember when I first came in? We were going to war with North Korea. War is inevitable. Nuclear war we're talking about. And he's pretty well stocked up. And I got along with him. It started off a little rough, but we got along great. I liked him. He liked me. We got along great. And there were no problems. You don't even hear about North Korea. Now you're starting to hear. Because he doesn't seem to like Biden very much. And there's nobody to talk to. Kim Jong-un, he's a different kind of a guy. Takes a different kind of a guy to talk to him, too. But I got along with him. Got along with him. Remember when I had the meeting, they said, he's given so much. He's given. I said, I haven't given anything. They said, that's a problem. All right.
What?
And they said, no. You agreed to meet. I said, well, what the hell is that? It's a plane trip and it's back and forth. That's okay. But, you know, the sanctions were all left. Massive. Nobody's ever been sanctioned like them. Or Russia, by the way. Russia. Not only the pipeline, but Russia. Look at the sanctions on Russia. Nobody's ever, yet I got along great with Putin. But I got along great with Kim Jong-un. Got along great with everyone. Not all of them like me. Germany's ripping us off on trade. They understood that. So when I want to reduce 52,000 soldiers, take out 25,000 soldiers, which costs us just tens of billions of dollars, everyone goes crazy. But I did the right thing, and they would have done anything. But now they want to put everybody back. It's a shame. Biden's also beholden to America's enemies, and so beholden. Nobody's ever seen anything that he actually criticized Israel while the Jewish homeland was under attack. Behold, the billions of dollars. Everyone goes crazy, but I did the right thing, and they would have done anything. But now they want to put everybody back. It's a shame. Biden's also beholden to America's enemies, and so beholden. Nobody's ever seen anything that he actually criticized Israel while the Jewish homeland was under attack by thousands and thousands of rockets and missiles launched by Iran. It was launched by Iran. It was a...
Hamas.
Betrayal of Israel.
It was Hamas.
When you look at what happened in Congress, you know, it used to be 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 15 years ago, everybody was with Israel. Today,
if Iran had launched missiles, again, now they might be Iranian weapons given to the Palestinians, given to Hamas, but if Iran had launched missiles over Jordan or however they wanted to deliver them, over Iraq, in the Middle East, we would have a full-scale war in the Middle East right now.
I guess it's just not in vogue. But you look at some of these radicals that they have in the House of Representatives. You have to deal with them all the time. And Israel is really almost out. It's almost out. It's a very, very terrible thing. And Biden foolishly eliminated.
Israel is almost out? What does that mean? Israel's almost out.
It's not in vogue. But you look at some of these radicals that they have in the House of Representatives. You have to deal with them all the time. And Israel is really almost out. It's almost out. It's a very, very terrible thing. And Biden foolishly eliminated the travel ban on terror.
Israel's almost out of what?
Afflicted countries. I said, I don't want people in from countries that blow up each other. I don't want them in. I don't want people in that are going to blow up our shopping centers. I don't want people in that are going to blow up our cities. And I won in court. They said I didn't win, and they were right. I lost at the lower court, I lost at the second court, and then I won at the Supreme Court, and we have a travel ban, and now they want to give it up. When the press talks about the travel ban, do you ever notice that he lost in court? And they're right. I lost here, I lost there, and then I won. We got the travel ban. They don't mention the last one. But we have a travel ban, and they are ending the travel ban, as I understand it. So they don't mind people coming in that like to blow things up and kill people. And he's taking action to increase the number of refugee admissions by 700%. This is announced stuff. But it'll soon be by over 2,000%. And that refugee admissions by 700%. This is announced stuff. But it'll soon be by over 2,000%. And that'll go up and up and up. And I don't know what they're doing. They don't need them for voting. And a lot of people say they want them for voting, but they don't need them because they cheat so much in the voting, you don't have to go through this process, okay? They don't need them. I keep saying they don't need them for voting. They just throw the ballots in there. Just, what do we need people coming in? We don't need that. We'll just throw those ballots in there and many other things. Yep. They're
throw those ballots in there and many other things.
Destroying our country. And now Biden is being openly mocked by China's negotiators and Russian President Putin, and they're taunting him and they're laughing at him and they're humiliating our country. And do you ever know
why? Was Biden at NATO or something? Because the NATO people laughed at you, sir. I mean, the whole United Nations laughed at you, sir.
Notice when he had a hard time going up the stairs in the plane, nobody talks about that. Nobody talks. The news didn't cover. Not one network covered it. Now, when I made the best speech I've ever made, they said was at West Point. And it was pouring. And I had a ramp. There was an ice skating rink. And I called. I said to the general, I said, General, I may have to grab you because the last thing I'm doing is going down. So I walked gingerly down. That was on every newscast in the world, and I never went down either. I never went. General covered. Not one network covered it. Now, when I made the best speech I've ever made, they said was at West Point. And it was pouring. And I had a ramp. There was an ice skating rink. And I called. I said to the general, I said, General, I may have to grab you because the last thing I'm doing is going down. So I walked gingerly down. That was on every newscast in the world, and I never went. Nobody talks. The news didn't cover. Not one network covered it. Now, when I made the best speech I've ever made, they said was at West Point. And it was pouring. And I had a ramp. There was an ice skating rink. And I called. I said to the general, I said, General, I may have to grab you because the last thing I'm doing is going down. So I walked gingerly down. That was on every newscast in the world, and I never went down either. I never went on my ass, I'll tell you. I wasn't going to fall. I think that was a booby trap. I'll never forget that ramp. That was like a sheet of ice. It was cold, rainy, and that ramp was long and steep. I said, General, I might have to grab you, but I'm not going down under. And unfortunately, I wasn't wearing American shoes. I had Italian shoes, nice leather. Leather. It's like an ice skating rink. But they made that a big story, but they didn't make the Biden fall. The triple fall. I call it the triple fall. Under my administration, America was respected again, totally respected. We withdrew from the disastrous Iran nuclear deal. We stood with Israel, recognized Jerusalem as its eternal capital, and recognized Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights. They've been
President Trump is facing some new questions about his health after an.
It was definitely sunny that day. I just looked at a picture of him going down the ramp. Hold on, I'll pull up a. Let's just fact check this while we're at it. Okay, so here's Trump on ramp. So we can just take. Oh, stop it. Trump on ramp. Okay, so here's Trump on ramp. Let's just go to the images and let's pull up. Here he is. This is that's at West Point. That's nice and sunny right there. Here he is on the ramp. You can see the sun on his back. The front of him is in the shade. He's got lovely lips there. You can see the sun glinting off the general's medals. And then we can do this. Let's see. Weather, West Point. And what we want to do is June 13th. June 13th weather. We'll go to all. And AccuWeather. Okay, so let's see if we've got a historical. You can find historical weather forecasts. This is June 2021. Let's go to 2020. June 13th. 13th, it was 73 degrees. Yeah, 73 degrees. And let's see, are they going to give us rain or anything? Let's, okay, I understand. Are you going to give us any more than that? 73 degrees, low 52. Here we go. June 6th through... No, that's this year. Let's go back again. Let's go monthly. Okay, historical weather. We'll do it this way. I just want to see if rain was even in the forecast that day. It may have drizzled a little bit, but it was a high of 73. Water freezes at 32. And on ground, it takes longer. But on ramp, it'll be quicker. So if we got anywhere near 32. Historic weather data. Okay, and weather underground, weather history and data archive. There we go. And West Point, New York. No. Okay, West Point, Tennessee, New York City. Let's find out what town West Point is in. West Point, no, it is West Point, New York. Let's find, it's the United States Military Academy. Okay, Phillipstown, Woodbury. So let's go Woodbury. No, not New York City. Woodbury, New York. There we go. Woodbury, New York. And we go to June 13th, 2020. And view. Page not found. Oh, come on. Okay, anyway, we can see a bunch of sun on Trump's back. We can see the medals glint. Let's go back then to the nonsense.
Been working on that for 55 years, and I got it done. We decimated the ranks of the world's top terrorists. You know that.
Hold on. Let's see if I'm still recording or not. And no, I was not. Okay, good.
We got our allies to pay their fair share. We stood up for our freedoms and for our country. And we stood up to America's adversaries like never before. Nobody's ever done what we've done. We decimated the ranks of the world's top terrorists, you know that. We got our allies to pay their fair share. We stood up for our freedoms and for our country. And we stood up to America's adversaries like never before. Nobody's ever done what we've done. I got other countries with NATO to pay. We were paying for NATO. We were paying for NATO. I got them to pay $430 billion. Nobody knows. Nobody. You don't read about that. The head of NATO is probably my single biggest fan. The Secretary General of NATO. They couldn't believe. You know, if you look at NATO, they're spending. So we were getting ripped off on trade. Okay, and on top of it, we were protecting them militarily. And how about Germany? They pay Putin. They pay Russia. Ripped off on trade. Okay, and on top of it, we were protecting them militarily. And how about Germany? They pay NATO, they're spending, so we were getting ripped off on trade. Okay, and on top of it, we were protecting them militarily. And how about Germany? They pay Putin, they pay Russia billions of dollars for energy, and then we protect Germany from Russia. How does that work? Think of it. They pay Russia billions and billions for the pipeline that nobody even knew was being built until I started making it a big case, because I said, why are you doing this? You're paying them billions of dollars, and then we're protecting you from them. What the hell kind of a deal are we? What are we doing? It's not believable. I could say so many different things. South Korea. I got them to pay hundreds of millions of dollars a year. They hadn't paid for years and years and years anything substantial. And my deal was they were going to pay billions of dollars, and it would have already taken place. And I refused to renew the deal. The deal expired.
Leslie, no.
He knows better than anybody. I said, we're going a month-to-month basis. Do you believe it? We want a 5-year deal. I said, no, because you're not paying us. Why are we protecting you? You took our television business, you build the ships, you build everything. You make it a fortune, and you're not paying us for military protection. And we're protecting you against a very hostile nation. Why? And they were very angry. They're great negotiators. But finally, they agreed to pay hundreds of millions of dollars, and it was because their budget had already been passed. I said, that's okay. But in January, February, we're going to meet, and you're going to pay us $5 billion a year.
In when?
And it was because their budget had already been passed. I said, that's okay. But in January, February, we're going to meet, and you're going to pay us millions of dollars. And it was because their budget had already been passed. I said, that's okay. But in January, February, we're going to...
January? He just doesn't finish the word.
They agreed to pay hundreds of millions of dollars, and it was because their budget had already been passed. I said, that's okay. But in January, February, we're going to meet, and you're going to pay us $5 billion a year. And they said, no. But eventually they said, I can tell when they're about ready to fold. So we didn't renew the deal, and we were going to get billions and billions of dollars from South Korea, who we protect. And they're great. They're wonderful. Everything's wonderful. But we were being taken advantage of. Again, kill us on trade and kill us in the military. And what happened? They just renewed it for a cost of living increase. Think of it, a cost of living increase. So we've been protecting them for 85 years.
Okay.
And they'll pay if you ask them. Nobody asks. In fact, I said, why are we paying for your military? Because that is the way it has always been. Well, that's not a great answer, I didn't think. I said, but that won't be the way. But I guess he turned out to be right, because they just...
It's a pretty good Asian accent.
That is... And they'll pay if you ask them. Nobody asks. In fact, I said, why are we paying for your military? Because that is the way it has always been. Well, that's not a great answer, I didn't think.
It's not a great accent.
That won't be the way, but I guess he turned out to be right, because they just got a cost of living. Think of that, a cost of living increase of less than 1%. We would have gotten at least $5 billion from them.
I don't think he was trying to do an accent there. He makes fun of people that way. I don't think it's got anything to do with him being a racist. Anyway, that's enough for now, kids. I can't do anymore. I gotta get up and move around, take my pajamas off, and start the day. So thanks for joining me, and we'll probably hit this later. We still have, let's see, we're at 108, and it goes till 1:30, so we still got another, 28 minutes of this, and we might do that later. So for now, signing off, enjoy your Sunday, go be nice to someone, and more importantly, be nice to me, and we will see you later, sometime in the future in a very short period of time.